Hi everyone, it's Michelle Cordero, Education Director here at ASIS Massage Education. I'm so happy to be live with you today, and thank you to everyone joining us after the live broadcast to watch the replay. I know this is going to be a great conversation. Just in prepping with our guest today and chatting just a few minutes, we've already been talking about a lot of different great topics, so I can't wait for everyone else to share into that today. So today's guest is none other than Susan Salvo, who is a longtime educator, author, particularly author of one of our main textbooks here at ASIS, the Massage Therapy Principles and Practice book. And we've been using this book here at ASIS ever since we went to publish textbooks here, and we love it. And we are so excited to be able to chat with her a little bit today about the textbook itself and the process of writing textbooks and what goes into it and how we on the other side here get to experience all the great things that come out of it. So I'm really excited to get to meet Susan a little bit and talk more about that. So let's say hi to Susan. Hello.
Hey, Michelle, how are you?
Yay! I'm doing very well, very well. Thank you so much for coming on. How's everything going out in Louisiana? They're having a nice fall time right now.
Everything's great, beautiful weather
Yeah.
outside, and it's so beautiful. The sunsets are absolutely amazing here.
Oh, I love that. That's so good. One state I need to really get to for sure. One on my top of my list. So you've been so gracious this whole process of asking you to come on and being a guest and working out some of what we were going to chat about. And I was telling you, like a lot of our students, myself included, people I know, as soon as we said you're going to be the guest, like, ooh, Susan Sell, because we know you from the lady from the book, right? But how did you become the lady on the book? What was your process into getting into massage therapy in the first place, and then kind of your navigation through to education and then textbook writing? I know it's probably like a whole hour just talking that story, but if you can give us a little background, we'd love to hear it.
Wow. Well, since you asked me, it's been so interesting because I've had a chance to reflect about the whole process. And so I got into massage in my early 20s,
Mm-hmm.
basically by receiving a massage. And
Mm-hmm.
this is one of the things that I really bring not only to my massage practice, but also to my practice as an educator and actually as well as an author is the concept of perspective taking. So when I first got a massage, it was actually my very first out of body experience. And I can remember, the image of me looking down on myself. But instead of looking at myself, I was looking at my practitioner. Her name was Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
And I just the look of peace and serenity and focus in
Oh,
her
wow.
in her face. And I thought, I want to do what you do. I want to have what you have. So it
Mm-hmm.
really just inspired me to pursue massage therapy as a career because of
Mm-hmm.
her, because of my relationship with her. And she loved what she did. And sure enough, 40 years later, I love what I do. I still
Yeah.
love what I do.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that's
so
so
when I
amazing.
graduated massage school in 1983,
Mm-hmm.
almost 40 years ago, I came back to Louisiana and I started practicing. And you can imagine there was a dearth, nothing going on here. So I
Mm-hmm.
started marketing. And the way that I marketed was I started giving lectures at civic organizations, at business meetings, and chiropractic clinics, pain clinics.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that I just had a gift of psychologists call this flow,
Mm-hmm.
where channeling is another term that they use, where I just tap into my unconscious and just information flows out. So from that educational experience, I realized that there was a big, obviously no massage therapist here except for myself, very lonely.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a huge clientele very quickly, and I
Mm-hmm.
realized we need more massage therapists.
Right.
So it was that need to fill a gap in the market that created my desire to not only educate, but also
Mm-hmm.
educate massage therapists and open up a school.
Yeah.
So my first school was literally four people. We borrowed a room at a hospital, a convention center, and we would do weekend classes. And of course, you can
Uh-huh.
imagine 1987, this is, okay, to kind of give you a timeline, 1987.
Right.
It was a 200-hour program and weekends only. And then about that same time, I connected with someone in a neighboring city, Lafayette, Louisiana. Her name was Margie Birch. And so
Mhm.
I taught the A and P section. She taught the massage section. And then we opened up broader, more people in the state in Louisiana.
Right.
And then, 30 years later, it's still the longest running massage school in the South. That's a couple in Louisiana and the Gulf Coast. So
Wow.
I just am really, and it's been a wonderful career for me. I'm still loving it. I'm
Mhm.
still teaching. I'm still practicing.
Yeah.
And it has just been so wonderful being around like-minded people who want to serve, who want to serve
Yeah.
humanity.
Yeah. If we were on your table and looked up at you, you'd still have that joy face on you as well?
Oh, beautiful. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, Michelle.
Yeah.
Still there.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And it makes me think too what we're trying to instill in students about it's not just the technique that you're putting in there. Everything the client can feel through that. And if you're not enjoying what you're doing and you're not focused on the client and kind of turning your energy into that, then it's not going to be the full body experience that just it's other mechanical. And they can get that from a machine of some kind. So
Yeah.
I love how you put it like that. You could tell from being on the table how much that person loved doing what they were doing. And that's really, really deep. Great perspective on that. I love that. So you still teach at the school that you founded, right? Is the same school. And I know it's not topic on the textbook, but I heard you're also working with another school right now.
And I'm helping a school in New Mexico open up after the hurricane. The hurricane, so I'm thinking Louisiana. It's also true, but a different
Yeah.
story.
Uh-huh.
After the pandemic, so many of the schools in New Mexico closed, and I was
Mhm.
approached by the Ayurvedic Institute to open up the New Mexico School of Massage, and they're
Nice.
slated to open up in January of next year. But it's
Okay.
a fantastic curriculum, and I'm really excited about helping them get started.
Nice. Well, they are lucky to have you help them get going. That's fantastic. I love it. So how did you go from teaching the A&P at this school to we need a textbook to use at this school and I'm going to write it? Or was that even your process? I don't know. Like I can imagine, like you were saying, there was a need for a school. I'm going to open it. So maybe was that your idea behind the textbook starting?
Well, so when you're teaching at a school, obviously you have to be organized with your
Mhm.
content and your lessons. And so I was pulling stuff mainly from the program that I went to, which is the New Mexico School of Natural Therapeutics. Is no longer in existence. There's a whole nother
Mhm.
story.
Yeah.
But created that little piece of curriculum, and I would pull the A&P stuff mainly from a nursing curriculum, and of
Mhm.
course the A&P stuff, the kines stuff from physical therapy. And I was contacted by two publishers. This is so ironic when I look back on it.
Mhm.
Now, of course, this is the history of the publishing world. So
Yeah.
the first publisher was Williams and Wilkins. Now it's Lippincott Williams and Wilkins, but it was
Uh-huh.
Williams and Wilkins, and all they had was the Travell books. Everyone probably has heard of the Travell books.
Right.
They had no massage textbooks.
Yeah.
And the second one was W.B. Saunders. Now later they would become Elsevier. So,
Mhm.
and all W.B. Saunders had was Beard's massage, which was written by a physical therapist, but nothing
Mhm.
for the population of massage schools,
Right.
specifically for that group. So they basically said, would you be interested in writing a book?
Mhm.
And we're collecting what they call a prospectus. So what a
Mhm.
prospectus is your philosophy, your writing and
Mm.
teaching philosophy, and also your ideal TOC, which is table of contents, and a sample chapter.
Okay.
And after about 6 months of submitting it to both companies, Saunders emailed me back. Or, no, called me back. This is before email.
Just
This
which
is so
what day
funny.
was.
I'm just so used to the language.
Yeah.
And they said, we've looked at multiple prospectuses, and yours was, and I quote, the most meat and potatoes, the most organized. And
Mm.
so they offered me a book contract. And of course, my very first edition, which I have right here to show you, very first
Mhm.
edition,
Love it.
1985, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
1995, was written on a electric typewriter. Word processing was not
Wow.
used back then. Everything
Wow.
through the United States Postal Service.
Wow.
And kind of the way the relationship between an editor and a publisher and an author is, it's like you are and I like to use a movie metaphor.
Mhm.
So you are the director, okay? But the
Mhm.
producer is the publishing company. They hold the purse strings.
Mhm.
It's your vision, but
Right.
they have to kind of approve whatever it is that you want to do. and they have their eye on the market.
Right.
Every decision they make is market driven, which is
Mhm.
also what happens when you have a new edition. If the
Okay.
book is selling, this is why sometimes you'll see books go out of print,
Mhm.
or books that are reprinted but they're never updated. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Several
Yeah.
books are out there who are still out there, but they haven't been updated in 20 years. I'm thinking, oh my God,
Mhm.
why? It's because
Uh-huh.
they weren't selling.
Mhm.
Again, a market-driven decision. So if the book
Okay.
sells, and this is in your contract, you are expected to do a second revision, and usually that's every 4 years.
Okay.
So if you can imagine, it takes about 18 months, give or
Mhm.
take a couple of months, to write a book. You
Mhm.
submit your manuscript, and then it goes through a whole different process. We'll talk about that later. And
Yeah.
then it's published about 18 months, 2 years later, and then you maybe have a year break, and
Yeah.
then you have to start revising for your next edition.
Wow.
So if you think about it, this is just give you a quick little history. This is my favorite cover, by the way. This is
Uh-huh.
second
I like that
edition.
one.
Second edition, my favorite. This is third edition.
That was the one I had,
Ah!
the first one. Yep.
So it's a trip down memory lane for you
Yeah,
too.
yeah. I still have it. I have a hard time letting go of textbooks.
This is fourth edition. My least
Mhm.
favorite cover. Sorry, Elsevier. This is my fifth edition. Fifth
Mhm.
edition.
Yeah.
And you'll start to see some similarities between the one big photo and the smaller photos.
Uh-huh.
See this in fourth edition? Whoop, there it
Right.
is. And this is probably the edition your students are using right now.
Yes.
This is
Yep.
sixth edition.
Uh-huh.
But again, you'll see the big image and then the smaller images on top.
Right.
So the seventh edition is actually, I'm probably 70% finished with it. I start submitting manuscripts to the seventh edition December 1st.
Nice.
And it's so funny, Michelle, because when I hand over a manuscript,
Uh-huh.
the experience is like this. It's like, here it
Yeah.
is, and they're
Yeah.
grabbing it, and you're pulling it back. Wait, give me a few more months,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you always find something you want to change.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop. And that's
Yeah.
one thing I need you to hear, and any other person who is a writer or interested in being a writer. And I learned
Mhm.
this when I was going to college. My professor said, the deadlines do come,
Mhm.
but the writing process never stops.
Right.
The writing
Yeah.
process never stops. And that is kind of soothing to know that even though it's out there and in print, that
Mhm.
things are going to evolve. And I
Yeah.
have the next edition to clean things up. And books are when an edition comes out, they only print out, let's say, 10,000 copies.
Mhm.
And then it's reprinted. And let me see if I can kind of give you an example of what that looks like. So if you look on the front, it's called the front matter.
Mhm.
And you get to this page. Watch, you're not be able to find it now.
Yeah. Now that the
Let's
pressure's
try
on.
that again. That was completely a big failure. Let's try this again. You get to this page. And at the very bottom, you can see
Uh-huh.
this right here.
Yeah.
This is the number of in the reprint. So they start subtracting numbers. So every time they
Oh.
say, okay, we're out of our stock, we need to reprint this, they'll contact me back and they'll say, are there any small changes you can make? We can't make a change to where it changed what's called the pagiation,
Mhm.
but I can change sometimes from a who to a whom, or
Right.
an and to an R. I can make
Uh-huh.
small little changes like that.
Right.
And usually there is a limit, like you can only get 20 for a whole
Oh
book
my
that's
gosh.
very
Wow.
small.
20's nothing.
20 is
Wow.
nothing.
Yeah.
But I might call in an image, and if it's called a
Mhm.
figure legend, I might say left instead of right because I am
Yeah.
dyslexic. It's a whole other conversation.
Oh
But
gosh.
but yeah, so I can make little changes. So that's kind of
Mhm.
the relationship that I have with publisher, how it all started, and a little
Mhm.
bit about the edition process.
Mhm. Wow, that's so amazing. Now I know what those magic numbers are. I'm always wondered what those I have noticed those before. I'm like, I have no clue what this is. They're just some kind of inside code. I love that. So it's interesting to me. Well, I have kind of a funny story about that. So we had back in September, October, they were back ordered the books because they needed to reprint them, I think is what they said, but who knows? That's what we're told. And so all of our campuses eventually got all the back orders, and one campus is still waiting. And I was like, what is going on? And so I called, and I know all the shipping stuff's kind of a mess right now, all over the country, all over the world. And so, we gave it some time. And she looks at the account and says, "It says here you ordered the 7th edition." I was like, wait, I know that's in process right now, but did the publication date get pushed up? I said, when is it supposed to get published? She said 2023. And I said, why would I order copies of a book? And so so they changed that. We got the books in a couple of days, so it wasn't a big deal. But I got excited. I was like, wow, this process is a lot faster than I thought it was. I was like, I guess it's coming now. But it's such a long process. I can imagine you're already starting to think about, okay, what's changing in the world of massage therapy, or new research that's coming out, and we have to save that for the next edition that's going to start this whole process again. So is that pretty much as soon as you kind of hand over your baby, are you already starting to keep your eye on things or tally stuff? How do you keep like a running list, or
Yes,
how do you go and do that and
I
decide what you're
do.
going to look at too?
I have, you can imagine in my computer, I've got folders for every edition, and
Mhm.
each folder, I've got updates for the next edition, and they're usually by chapter.
Okay.
So, and as I'm writing the chapters, I usually go back and make sure I haven't forgotten anything. And these ideas come from conferences. They come
Mhm.
from Facebook has been a great, or social
Mhm.
media in general, has been a great resource for me. And
Mhm.
the wonderful thing about this is, and I love you, the conversation we had earlier before we got on was,
Mhm.
all you have to do is ask. I
Mhm.
really appreciate students reaching out to me and saying, "Hey, don't forget to add this in there. Hey,
Yeah.
would you
Yeah.
would you add more information about this?"
Mhm.
And we call it deletions on omissions.
Mhm.
Or why was this taken out?
Yeah.
In fact, let me tell you about the latest edition. So when I started writing the hydrotherapy chapter, it was hydrotherapy and spa.
Okay.
And some of the criticism I got was, spa's not hydrotherapy, so you're putting them together. You shouldn't be putting them together. Well,
Mhm.
okay, no problem. I took it out and I put it on Evolve.
Mhm.
Well, we had a backlash of the
Oh, you
biggest
can't win.
kind. It was like, "No, we want that back." And so
Yeah.
sure enough, this edition, I
Yeah.
put it back in there. And so, but it's
Yeah.
kind of fun to see. But again, that was decision was made because people were
Mhm.
contacting me directly
Right.
saying, "We want that content back in there."
Yeah.
And so, that was kind of fun. But yeah, I definitely keep my finger on the pulse, and I keep track of all kind of changes. And I will tell you, Michelle, in the last 20, 25 years, there's been so many changes.
Mhm.
The biggest change for this edition coming out, and this includes the pathology book,
Mhm.
is on the whole concept of gender neutrality.
Nice.
Everything, every reference, I will tell you, I'm going to go back and give you some more specific information. Every reference to men and women have been deleted. Either they've been changed to they and their, so non-binary terms,
Nice.
or we've used the term male and female.
Mm.
In the concept of draping,
Yeah.
now it's gender neutral draping. You drape everyone the same way, regardless of gender.
Yeah.
So that's been another big change, but it's in the whole concept of cultural competencies. And that's another term that we weren't using 10 years ago.
Right.
We weren't.
Yeah.
And so that got put in there. 10 years ago, we
Mhm.
weren't talking about evidence informed practice.
Mhm.
Now, it was a huge topic in
Yeah.
massage. Human trafficking.
Mhm.
We weren't talking about it 10 years ago, but
Yeah.
it's a big issue that we have to be talking about in massage schools.
Right.
So those are examples of topics, and there are many.
Mhm.
Infection control, is changed.
Yeah.
Not really changed a lot, but the emphasis we're putting on is greater. Uh, and documentation, and another interesting concept that happened during the different editions is, so I'm probably on third edition at this point, and
Mhm.
it bothers me that a lot of people aren't using soap notes. Great example.
Oh, hallelujah.
So,
Let's hear it, Susan. Let's do this.
I started doing some research. Why aren't people using soap notes? And so I go to the medical community. We have a PT and a nurse school in our university locally. And I basically said, "So what are you guys using for documentation?" And basically they told me they haven't used soap for decades.
Wow.
So it was interesting for me to think about something as basic as documentation that has changed over time in other professions, but we have never evolved.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm moving away from SOAP notes and adding what the other professions are using, which is FDAR, or people call them focus notes. And
Mm-hmm.
FDAR stands for focus of the session, D for data, and it can be subjective, objective data, or research data. So it's kind of a unique, cool concept. And
Nice.
then A is for action, what you did in that session,
Mm-hmm.
paint a picture of the session. And then R is for response, how the client responded, what your actions were.
Yeah.
And so, but that's another great example of information changing over time based
Mm-hmm.
on not only changes in our profession,
Right.
but changes in other professions. That's another thing I want all your listeners to really understand is this is the meticulousness. One of the things that I'm very meticulous about this book is that I make sure that whatever is in my book is the same thing nurses are saying, the same thing PTs are saying. Because if we're saying something different,
Yeah.
something's wrong.
Right.
Something's wrong. Even my section on skin, in terms of estheticians, I make sure all my information is congruent. There's no discrepancy in information between what we're saying in massage school and what other schools are saying about the same topic.
Right.
And a lot, I mean, that takes a lot of time.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, just putting a lesson plan together from the great material that you already produced, that takes a little bit of time. Although your supplemental material for us instructors have been phenomenal and so helpful in that sense. We're using Evolve. You had mentioned that before, and that's the online supplement for Elsevier textbooks, right? Is that basically a good way to describe it?
Yeah, and there's teacher resources and there's
Mhm.
instructor resources, and you said that they're different.
Yeah, so I have told students, we do an orientation when they get their books. We show them the little code on the front of the book that they can scratch off and go get some of that material. But just today I was hearing about what our trail guide book has changed, the Andrew Beale's book, the Books of Discovery, and they took out the trigger point section. They put it online and said it's not in the actual book. I was like, how do we get this? I'm like, oh, if I have to tell you guys again, remember that inside of the book, scratch it up. There it is. So it's a constant reminder, those of you guys watching here, make sure you're using all those resources because it's just more resource help for you. So that's a really good plug on that. And you also mentioned your pathology book. So it's not just the massage therapy book that you have, but I saw very exciting news about your pathology book just recently, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, my pathology book really rocks it. So I'm going to find it real quick. It's a couple of things I want to show you in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the 5th edition. And so we added a chapter. There's a little bit more information here on obviously cannabis, CBD oils in here. We talk a little bit about medications, a lot on pharmacology, especially vaccinations is in here. We do hospital-based massage. In fact, since the 4th edition was printed, this is going to be the 5th edition, there's been a whole explosion in hospital-based massage, and there's actually been competencies published. So Michelle Renee, who's my contributor for this book, she wrote the whole section and updated the section on hospital-based massage and added those competencies in there. So with this section, so let me tell you, so I love research, and my doctorate is in education. I just love research. And what I was hearing from doctors is, don't tell me that massage reduces pain. Don't tell me that massage improves range of motion or function. Tell me what happened in that study to produce those results. Give me the recipe, how long, what they worked on, what techniques they used.
Right.
So what I did was this. Let me give you an example. So I don't want to use that example. I want to find another example. I guess asthma would be a fun one. Okay, so when I talk about asthma in the textbook, and they're all categorized by, almost there. They're all categorized by body system. Okay, here we go. Okay. So what I did was I had this one section called need to know. So if you look at it right here, you can see massage and asthma need to know. And there's quite a bit of information on what you need to do. But there's this whole other section on research good to know. That section right there, research
I see it.
good to know. And what that is I took every study, and again, this took a lot of time, every study about massage and asthma. And I would say, I can read you a couple of things because A 30-minute massage administered every night at bedtime for 1 month improved lung function and decreased air sensitivity in children with asthma. And then I would cite the source.
Mm-hmm.
And so you yourself or your students could actually look in the reference section and find that study and read the whole paper if they wanted to. But I
Right.
basically told you how often they were administered, how long they were administered, and when they were administered.
Oh,
So people who
nice.
use the book can look at this and really use it to
Mhm.
create evidence-informed treatment plans
Right.
or session
So
plans.
important.
And
Yeah.
so that's another big change that happened in this book.
That's
And this
just marketing value in that alone is phenomenal, right? Like you're saying, the doctors don't want to just know what the outcome is. What does it do? So sit down. Here you go. These are all the great things that it does do and why we know this. So that's awesome. Get those clients in there.
Another thing I did was like in the medication section, the treatment section, I
Mhm.
bolded the medications that they're going to be using so the therapist would know, be paying attention to these medications. So in case you have to modify your massage to that specific
Right.
medication or the route of administration.
Love that.
So it
That's
was a lot of fun. I had a good time writing this book.
Yeah, I love they put fun and research in the same page. So it's so true. We get a little geeky about that over here ourselves, and the students are like, "Oh, come on, it is so fun." But look all the great stuff. And back in my day, I do that a lot too. Back in my day, we didn't know anything. No, there was no research on anything based in it. All the massage therapy related research that was out there is what physical therapists were doing for using manual therapy. So lucky, I think all of our trailblazers here to help us move our industry along a lot more. Love that. That's great. So, so but going back to the massage therapy book, because we mentioned a little bit about what you said way back when we first started that you put your table of contents together when you were first starting with the the proposals for the publishers, and so are you constantly looking at what states are requiring from different schools to include in their in textbook or in their curriculum to meet the standards of different licensing requirements? Are you following more of like the ELAB competencies, or what kind of things to make sure that all the topics are covered? And how do you address that some schools are 500 hours and other schools are 1,000 hours? Is that a challenge when you're thinking about that and how to produce the information for them?
Well, there's only 2 states in the country that are at 1,000 hours. Most are at 500, and there's several that are 6 to 750. So that's not a big range. When you look at the curriculum, they're really very, very similar. The big change is in how much time they spend on certain topics. That's a big thing. But I do believe there are more similarities than differences. And I do find that people who use my book and other books, not just my book, are doing fairly well on the licensing exam. That is where I take the bulk of my lead from, is a licensing exam. Because bottom line is, it is a measure of competency. And so far, I have not found a school that says, this did not meet our requirements for state licensure or for the MLEX. Let me tell you, I had a conversation recently with a lady named Nicole about New York State, and she said that going back to our conversation about more hours in certain topics, she said that New York, which is one of the states with 1,000 hours,
Yeah.
and that 1,000 hours, 100 hours are shiatsu.
I know. Yeah. We had a sister school there. Yeah, I know. I'm like, what is going on?
Just to give you an example about, it's not really the content that's changing, it's the amount of information that's being taught. And so, and that's another interesting thing about this book that I write, is that we found that most schools do not want a book for every single topic. They want a chapter about a topic. You've got some exceptions, like the Trail Guide's an exception. But most schools who aren't teaching 100 hours of shiatsu, they're teaching maybe 30. What are you teaching at your school?
We are an 800 hour. Oh, of shiatsu? Shiatsu is about 40 hours or so.
Yeah. And so it doesn't deserve a whole book. It mainly is, this is the theory, here are the points, let's practice.
Although shout out to Sandy Anderson and her shiatsu book.
Oh yes, shout out to Sandy Anderson. Yeah, I don't want to discuss Sandy Anderson.
It's a great comprehensive book.
But most schools, not just your school, but just prefer having 1 or 2 books. And so and so it's interesting because when I decide, about how to write those chapters because I'm not an expert in every single field. So I have to pull in contributors or pull in
Right.
reviewers to make sure the content is up to par. And I really like that because then the book doesn't become just one voice. It becomes a chorus of many, many voices. And my job is just to kind of move all those voices through along the page. And I have to be careful because like the history of massage is a great example. I did not want a massage therapist writing it. I wanted a historian writing it.
That makes so much sense.
So I hired Michael Tarver to write the very first book. Now, later on, we needed additions. Obviously, when the first book was written, the MTBOC wasn't out, the ELAP wasn't out, MLEX wasn't part of the licensing exam. Board certification wasn't even on the radar.
Right.
So all that had to be added in later. And so, and we just kind of, that's going back to the whole updating process. And I tell you what else we do, even though we're using massage therapists to write certain chapters, I do this interesting thing called a single blind review process. And I use what's called an external audit. So what does that mean? That means a double blind means both parties don't know who the other person is. So you don't know I'm the author and I don't know you're the reviewer. The single blind process is that they're blinded. They're not blinded to who I am, but I'm blinded to who they are. Now I have requirements, and usually I have 3. 1, I want a massage practitioner reviewing the book, the chapter usually. 2, I want a massage educator reviewing the book from that perspective, that lens.
Right.
And 3, I want an expert that's not a massage therapist. That's the external audit part. So, for instance, in the pathology book, the cardiovascular pathology chapter is also reviewed by a cardiologist.
Nice.
Okay, because I want to make sure, again, going back to everything's got to be congruent. We got to be saying everything that they're saying in their fields, we should be doing the same. But when they come back, they're blinded to me. And I do that.
Go yell at them.
Yeah, I would be biased because I know I would pay attention to the cardiologist or the educator more than the massage practitioner. And it shouldn't matter who says it.
Right.
What should matter is what they say. And so it is a way for me to get some great information, but also to reduce bias.
Yeah. I'm almost wondering if the double blind would work as well, because people might know, they know who you are, especially in the massage field. I wonder if they may be like, oh, this is great because it's Susan. It's wonderful. But you're probably like, no, you should read some of the reviews I get. Do you get a lot of really open feedback?
Oh, I do. And I, honestly, one of my criteria is you must be brutally honest. Honestly, if you don't give me anything critical, I probably won't use you again.
Yeah.
Because that means like a pat on the back.
Yeah. Right.
I need someone who says, show me where my blind spots are, to be kind of rough on me. So I do need brutal honesty. And the reason why we can't single blinded is how many textbook authors are there really out there?
Yeah, that's true.
A dozen maybe.
Right.
And so they can probably figure out pretty easy who it is.
Yeah. That's so funny. I love that. So do you already have, you said December 1st, you're giving, some of the chapters over, right? Is that correct? So are they going to do them in stages or does it all go?
Well, right now, okay. So if you know anything about the book, it's 30 chapters. Chapter 1 through 17 is the massage piece. And chapter 18 through 30 is the A&P piece, and kinesiology piece. So I'm turning over the massage pieces first.
Okay.
And then I'm turning over the A&P sections last. And it's kind of fun to think about the order I write them in. I just finished chapter 14, which is the clinical massage chapter. It got a huge overhaul. And then after I write that, I have to write the neurological chapter.
Okay.
They have to follow each other because so many of the clinical applications is based on neurological laws.
Right.
So they have to be written together. And so I'm really glad I just finished that, and that's going to go, and then all the chapters are going to go. It's my last chapter I wrote in the first unit, and then I'll dive in and finish up the second unit. I only have 2 left. Obviously, nervous system is one of them. And then I don't know why reproductive is last. Go figure.
Yeah, that's funny. So you mentioned the clinical massage chapter 14. I'm always proud of myself, and I'm like, I know what chapter that is, and I tell students, they're like, where do I find that? And I'm like, business chapter 17. So with the clinical stuff, is that's where like the orthopedic testing is
Mhm.
lives in that chapter. And so it's interesting to me. I've been watching all the discussions happening in the Facebook group, the educator Facebook group, about orthopedic testing and other things, like you're asking and polling the audience, like what are you actually teaching in class.
Smart.
Yeah, and I really love, and I was telling one of our injury rehab instructor here, was having a conversation with him the other day, and I was saying, "Oh, Susan's asking about this," and I found it was really interesting all the discussion that happened, and Whitney Lowe was chiming in, and he's one of the big ones I think of when I think of orthopedic assessments sometimes, and we were just saying how we think it's an important piece of what we talk about and explain and show, but it has to be done in the right way to tell students how they were actually going to be using these tests, and not so much that they're going to go out and start diagnosing everybody with carpal tunnel syndrome, but why is it important to know this? And what is your like take on it from a therapist point of view, how important these testings are for us as massage therapists? How much
Well,
did you add more to it in this chapter?
actually, I did. That's exactly what happened.
Yay.
I added more, but I understand some of the people's concerns, so I addressed it in the intro. And
Mm-hmm.
then what I did was I made almost everything has a picture now, because they were part of the teacher was struggling with how to teach them because it wasn't graphic enough.
Mm.
So I added pictures for all the tests, and I added, when I talk about the anterior drawer test or the Phelan test or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I'll put in parentheses what it's for.
Mm-hmm.
That way students can start making the connection. This is for carpal tunnel. This is for thoracic outlet. This is
Right.
for lumbar compression. And
Mm-hmm.
so that definitely got put in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I did simplify the explanations a little bit. I'd be happy to throw those at you later to take a look at it. And
Yeah.
another big change that happened was, I did update the pain definitions, because the pain definitions were updated.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of cool. And I added in the section on clinical applications like MET and PNF. Obviously, you saw that conversation today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I added steps. So a little bit more about application method.
Mm-hmm.
I added types of cupping. I
Uh-huh.
added types of MET and PNF. And I think one of the people in EdNet was going into detail, and I did add that. And I did combine them this time.
Mm-hmm.
Already before Jason said anything, it was like,
Yeah.
yeah, they really are. It really doesn't make any sense for students to separate them. So I
Mm-hmm.
gave a little bit of a historical perspective, which was an osteopathic perspective, which is a
Mm-hmm.
physical therapy perspective, but they were
Right.
actually came into being at the same time in history. So I gave a
Oh,
little bit of historical perspective, and then I
yeah.
said, basically, these are the types, and this is how it's
Mm-hmm.
applied, and these are
Right.
the differences. So
Right.
PNF typically is a stronger contraction and a longer contraction.
Mm-hmm.
PET shorter. So I made it a little bit more palatable
Okay.
and applicable.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And I don't say it's a criticism, but one of the things that come up with that chapter too, people are like, well, I don't know how to treat this now. And I'm like, well, we're not teaching you a protocol of things anyway. These are the tools that you're applying with the tools you know already. And these are just the ways you're looking at this condition or situation, applying all the stuff that you know. So they're always like, well, we need to know protocols. It's always really challenging. So just sometimes with students to kind of get their minds wrapped around it, and sometimes getting too pigeonholed into, okay, I do this test and then I say that we have to do this, and then I have to do like 4 PNF stretches this way, and these kinds of strokes that way. But I love how your chapter is laid out with the tools that we use to help with our clinical reasoning and our decisions of how to treat the condition that it is. So I'm looking forward to those changes now. It's one of my favorite chapters of the book. So
Well,
I love
but
it.
I tell you, what you just said was another criticism that I responded to. So when I talk about carpal tunnel syndrome, and these are
Mm-hmm.
the 2 tests to use to see if it is this, I do refer them to the chapter that the protocol is in.
Mm-hmm.
I can't repeat it because it's already in the book someplace else,
Right, right.
but I tell them where to find it.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, but it is. I mean, it is going back to the concept of empathy. It is looking at one of my favorite quotes. I have 2 favorite quotes. You can write them down if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
The students. I'm sorry. The student's perception is the teacher's reality, or the student's perception is the author's reality.
Uh-huh.
So whatever they're saying is true. I have to
Yeah.
deal with that reality. So if they have
Right.
a problem finding the protocol, it's an
Mm-hmm.
easy fix. It's in this chapter.
Yeah.
And I tell students when I'm teaching that the client's perception is the therapist's reality. So
Mm-hmm.
you can use that concept and apply it in either setting, an educational setting or a practicum setting.
Right. Oh, I love that. That's so great. We also say too what you think you said is not exactly how it was heard. That's another way I kind of look at it too, right? And it's like, well, I didn't mean to hurt his feelings, but he still got his feelings hurt, and you didn't intend to, but that's still it's
Yeah.
their reality and the way they perceived it. So yeah, I can see that easily be the case as well with the work that we're doing. So I can't wait to tell my the instructor, my injury rehab instructor, he's also our cupping teacher. So he's
Ah,
going to love hearing that he got a little more of a shout out because there's a little chapter, a little paragraph before. So yeah, he's a phenomenal here. And he's gotten everybody on the cupping train at our school for sure. Um, yeah. So I was just looking at make sure I covered some of my notes that we were talking about. With the pathology book, so is that ready to be purchased yet, or is that hitting the
December
shelves this
7th.
month? Okay. And where would someone go? Like Amazon's probably not the best for you as an author, but who knows? Where is the
It
best
doesn't
place to do
matter.
it?
I mean,
Okay.
I'm about reducing barriers. You definitely can contact Elsevier, or you could go to Amazon. I want to
Mhm.
say Amazon is taking pre-orders now, so when the books are in the warehouse on the 7th, they're
Mhm.
going to ship them out.
Okay.
But the main thing is to get your hands on the material. And let me mention one other thing, because I know not everyone has access to the book or even easy access to the book. I put in a
Mhm.
lot of this content already from the pathology book on my blog. I
Mm.
started an academic blog a couple of years ago, so that would be a place if you want to get a preview, or
Mhm.
maybe as a resource for you in your
Okay.
classroom.
Is
Or
this the Wix site page? Is that your blog?
it is it's WordPress. It's
Oh.
called Massage Passport.
Oh, okay. I remember that page now. Let me pull it up and put it on the thing here. So you do have, I love every author I've talked to so far on this journey that I've been doing has been so gracious with so much free information for people. I've done, I know Cherie Sonen Mo with Sonen Mo Associates has tons of things on her website. And I talked to Ruth Werner, who's got a ton of things available out there. Susan, you've been so gracious too. It's so amazing that people are able to do that and help with everybody to have that information. Um, so I'm gonna type this in right now so we can make sure that I have it, so everyone can see what the website is. And I will add that and we'll put that on there. So, right, that sounds right.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a
Yes.
great piece of information. And as I update chapters, I'll go back and I'll update the material. So
Mhm.
you have access to what's ever coming out, even though you have an older edition.
Okay. Oh, that's so cool. I love that. And then I know with our massage therapy book, we have the access to evolve and have
Mhm.
more resources. Does the pathology book as well have more additional resources as well?
Yes. In
Oh,
fact, you can, using your Evolve website, you can
mhm.
actually not Google, wrong word. You can search for other editions and you can have access to older editions, and the assets or the
Mm,
information changes. So you
okay.
might I have a preference to 5th edition assets for principles and practice. Even though
Okay.
the assets have been updated, I like the other games. So I'll
Yeah.
go back and look at the games.
I do like those games. They're a lot of fun. I play I'm looking for something else. I'm like, oh, let me see if I can answer some of these. I just totally wasting it's yeah. Instead of going on social media, I'll just answer anatomy questions and see how I do.
Nice. That's a good way to do it.
Yeah, the goofball that I am. I love that. Do you have a lot of do you do a lot of that online stuff? I know you talked about resource or sourcing out to some other people for different chapters and different content, but the online content how does that get generated?
Both. Sometimes it's me, and sometimes it's another content provider.
Okay.
We use a lot. We've used Sandy, we use Elon Schachter,
Mhm.
we've used several people in the massage community who just kind of volunteer, and I'm always looking for help. So,
Oh, nice.
so it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And the textbook, not the textbook, I'm sorry, the test bank questions, is that also through is like I know I used to write for Elsevier with
Ah,
Hesse Elsevier. I used to write and put test
yeah,
questions and edit them for a little while. Sandy actually got me that job.
yeah,
So I had a lot of fun doing that. So is that the process using those group of authors and that
yeah,
write the test bank questions?
yeah. Pretty much, if they got a group of people they like to work with, they'll keep working them. And again,
Yeah.
Sandy has been pretty much on the front line for a long time.
Yeah, yeah. Those are a lot of fun. It really opened up my eyes to the way that tests should be made and not trying to trip up people. I like very straightforward questions and not trying to see how someone can answer a test question rather than show me your knowledge. So I learned a lot working with that position too. So
Nice.
yeah, it's really cool. So let me see. Is there anything else that we didn't cover about the process?
Let me
Oh, I
see.
know we had mentioned that you polled some of your Facebook friends and asked like what kind of questions they would like to know. And one was that how would you go about starting to write a book, or what are the steps if you wanted to publish a textbook or get involved in this a little bit? What advice do you have for any budding authors out there?
Well, there's a couple of ways to approach it. Number one, you need to have a marketable topic, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
one that the publisher feels like they can sell books. If you can even have the market research, I poll so many schools and they say that they need this textbook. So having a need for it's going to be a big factor.
Mm-hmm.
Also, writing a prospectus, and again,
Mm-hmm.
you can just Google how to write a prospectus and get all the information that they
Yeah.
need. But for whatever reason, if you're rejected, don't take a rejection slip as a no. It just might mean not now.
Mm-hmm.
And offer to be an ally with another author. Oftentimes, I will get someone helping me, and all of a sudden, that's the person I like working with them,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll recruit them to maybe be a contributor.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is a whole different level in the textbook world. Um, but again, just like you said, we're looking for people oftentimes to review questions, to update information, to create lesson plans. You can even be a retired massage educator, and you could be doing this kind of work on the side. It's a side hustle or a side gig. So, but it's a great way for people who love education, who love writing, and love massage to get in the field. So basically, come up with the idea, write a prospectus, or usually write a sample chapter is a good idea. And again, there's more than one publisher out there. Elsevier is one. I think Lippincott actually got out of the massage business. Handspring's
I heard
another
that.
great publisher.
Oh yeah, I love them.
Yeah, so there's some really good people out there. You can always self-publish. I don't recommend it, because when you work with a publisher, there's a whole marketing piece. It's one thing to have a good book, but you have to have someone who can actually promote it or let
Right.
people know, just like us marketing, let people know that we're out there, and we have something that they might want.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Elsevier does a great job. I always hear of new editions of things and different products that are coming out. Handspring too. I've gotten a couple of their books already, and I've loved all the both that I've gotten from that. So yeah, I'm a big textbook nerd. I know a lot of people like books, right? We all like, but me, the only books I buy are textbooks. All the other ones I borrow from the library.
Oh,
Like I save all money for the textbooks.
nice.
Yeah, I use my public library. It's a lot more fun. Um, was there anything else on your list? Because I know you had a good list too of some things. And
Let me see. I think we've done a really good job of covering everything. No, I
yeah,
think we're good.
all right, awesome. Um, so because I want to make sure that we get to my hot seat questions because everyone's always curious about this with everybody. Um, but first, any new projects on the horizon for you, or more?
Oh
Things?
man. What is coming up? I am doing a pharmacology webinar in a couple of weeks
Okay,
for Elements Massage. That's a franchise.
nice. Mm-hmm.
I'm doing there's a UK group, massage therapy called Jing, and they
Uh-huh.
have monthly jam sessions,
Oh,
as
cool.
they call. And so I'm going to be doing a jam session with them in January,
Uh-huh.
and I'm doing a teacher in service for the New Mexico school next week.
Nice. Ooh.
And then in December, I'm going to be in Washington, D.C., trying to help write the compact, the Interstate Compact. I'm on the group
Nice.
that's going to be working with Interstate Compacts. I'm excited about that as well.
That's really awesome. I saw the call out for that. For anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's a compact is kind of like I'm going to mess this all up, but I'll do my best. A agreement that different state boards of different licensing groups can get onto so that the transferability, the portability of licensing is a lot easier to go from state to state.
Very
So
good.
they already have a bunch of other professions such as I think nursing, physical therapy, a couple different ones. And so we're trying to get the massage therapy one going. And that's mostly came out of people who are military based or have a military connection, because you get changed over directions all over the place. You get restationed and such, but it's going to benefit everybody, not just people involved in the military, right? That's my understanding.
You have done a phenomenal job in that. Bravo.
Yay!
Yeah.
I attended the info session, the very first info session. So I did see where there was a call out to authors. So yay for you getting on board. That's awesome. We're going to really see something from that. I'm sure that's good. That's really, really cool. I can't wait to hear more about that. Okay, Susan, I'm going to get to the hot seat questions. And so I hope you're ready. Okay. So Susan, which talent or superpower would you most like to have?
Patience.
I love that's the category of a superpower. Like it's
Yeah. I just no, and it works for me. When you want to get
Yeah.
something done, I'm your
Right.
girl.
Yeah.
But I'm not very patient.
I love that. I would think a lot of people who are go-getters are probably not as patient as you need to be. Yeah. So if you weren't a massage therapist or weren't in this field, what occupation would you most like to have?
Oh, gosh, this one. I actually love people. That's one of the reasons why I love the concept and the topic of psychology. So I go back and forth between wanting to be a waitress, wanting to be a travel agent or a tour guide or write a food blog. Just, I don't know. I love culture. I love travel. So trying to
Yeah.
blend those three things together
Yeah.
would be my wish. But nursing even, I mean, I just like people. I like being with people.
Yeah, I love that. So it says a lot about you. If money and circumstances weren't an issue, where would you most like to live in the world?
You could probably guess this one.
Ireland?
Ireland.
Ireland.
I absolutely
Yeah.
love Ireland.
Was that
The
your first
land
trip?
of saints and scholars.
Nice. I love that. What your training that you did recently, that trip, was that your first time there? Or have you been there a few times?
Fourth time.
Okay. You
I'm
definitely
pretty
love it.
addicted. I went there for a full month and did a yoga teacher training. I was in a dormitory with two other women,
Oh,
one from Switzerland and one from the UK. And it was I just loved it. I just
yeah.
absolutely loved it.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. It's my dream to surprise my sister with a trip there because that's her dream place. So I would love to go with her for that. So, what is your most treasured possession?
Okay, if I had to pick one, it would be my mother's cast iron pots.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
If I could pick two, it'd be my mother's cast iron pots and my father's pocket watch. She's got a really cool pocket watch I like a lot.
Oh, that's really cool. Do you still use both? Do you use them or they're more on
No,
display?
I just have my pocket watch because this doesn't work anymore. It's just more of
Okay.
a symbol for my love for him and him as a person.
Oh, I love that. Do you cook in the cast iron still or?
Oh, and last night, you bet.
Oh, awesome. I guess seasoned. I bet you it's so seasoned now. Oh, those amazing meals out of those pots. I love it. And last but not least, what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Okay. I haven't told you that I'm a big romantic.
No.
I got married when I was 30.
Uh-huh.
I wish I would have gotten married earlier.
Okay.
I wish I would tell my 18-year-old self. And I know I probably didn't have the wisdom that I had at 30, but I wish I would have married sooner.
That's so interesting. I don't hear that from people often. Usually people I know that have married early, they wish they waited a little bit. So just so you could be in love longer.
I just like the person I married and wish that we would have been a marriage partner longer.
Did you know him that long? Have you known him that
I
long?
actually knew him from like second grade.
Oh,
we just didn't connect, you know.
Right, it wasn't the right time.
Who he was. And again, going back to what you said, I think if I would have married him, we'd probably get divorced. because you're so immature. I was
Right.
at
Yeah.
18,
Yeah.
but that would be my wish to be married
Oh,
longer.
oh, I love that. That's so great. Oh, who knew? Since I was such a softie. So any last words of advice to our students, perhaps, as they're thumbing through your book and getting to know who wrote those words behind the book, and any words of encouragement as they continue through their program?
Just spend every day learning. Learn
Mhm.
one new thing every day. Like I wake up saying, today's a great day to learn something new.
Mhm.
Definitely practice self-care. Come up with what it is you like, whether it's walking your dog, yoga, listening to music, playing music,
Mhm.
dancing, whatever. Do something every single day. So
Yeah.
one thing, the educational component, intellectual stimulation kind of thing,
Mhm.
and one thing, more of a self-care, nurturing kind of thing.
I love that. That's great advice. And fall in love
Yes,
if you can.
and stay in love.
Yes, I love it. I'm gonna show your WordPress site again, massagepassport.wordpress.com, for anyone who wants to get more updates on anything that you're at your blog up there, but particularly a lot of your pathology information. That's a really great resource. Thank you for having that for everybody that benefit. And thank you so much for taking the time today and chatting with me. And I've really enjoyed getting to know you more and knowing the process behind all the hard work that goes on through those books. And can't wait for the 7th edition, though I know we will wait patiently, but we'll enjoy the 6th one until then. Thanks for helping us with our curriculum and making our program this strong as it is. So I really, really am grateful from all of us here at ASIS. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Michelle. It's a
Mhm.
pleasure. I really enjoyed this a lot.
No, thanks. Me too. Okay, bye, everybody. We'll see you next time.